Today, I would like to talk to you about the second chance LitRPG that I finished just a few days ago. And I'm very glad that I gave it a second chance because, to be honest, I DNFd it about a year ago because it didn't really work for me. But I would like to explain you all the reasons why I think it's actually a great series, and I implore you to try if you haven't tried already. And especially if you're a woman. Because let's be honest, I've actually tried already a few lead RPGs in my life, and to be honest, they didn't necessarily work for me. In my personal classification, there are two types of lead RPGs usually. The first type is Asian, and I tend to find them quite sexist. And the second type is Western, and they are more to my liking, but they're usually about guys leveling up and killing monsters and battling other enemies. And sometimes I don't really find it particularly original or interesting personally for me. And that's why I would like you to try The Wondering Inn by PiratAba. But at the same time, I have no illusions that I'm the first person recommending this series because it is very, very popular already. But I would like to share my take on the series and maybe try to convince you to give it a second chance. If it happened with you, as it happened with me, that I DNF'd it on my first read for the series. But if we actually pause for a second, because I'm sure some of you actually don't really know what Elite RPG is. If you've ever played video games, RPG games, when you level up your character while you're progressing through the story, sometimes based on your actions, or sometimes you can select certain characteristics of your character in order to level them up. This is the idea behind role-playing games, RPGs, when you are growing your character in strength and other characteristics. And the same logic is applied to lead RPGs, when your character is usually sent to different realm, to different universe, to this magical universe, and they have to start a new life, and they start leveling up in order to achieve their goals. But as already mentioned, in majority of lead RPGs that I've personally tried, it was usually about guys leveling up in order to fight monsters or other enemies. And I personally don't really know many examples of lead RPGs with interesting female characters and maybe with a little bit of a different approach to the story. And this is the main reason why I would like to recommend The Wondering Inn. But at the same time, you may be thinking, hey, come on, I'm a man and I love The Wondering Inn. But I'm not trying to say here, if you're a man, you will not enjoy the story, because I know lots of people, regardless of their gender, actually love the series. What I'm trying to say here, if you're a woman, maybe pay attention to the series and really try to give it a go, because you may find something there that you didn't find in other stories. And maybe you're thinking again, hey, I've actually heard quite controversial things about the series, and I'll tell you one thing here, because probably everything you've heard about the series is actually true. All the bad things you've heard about the series, like for instance that the writing is bad, it is very meandering and repetitive. And the great things you've heard about the series, about this amazing world and characters. And if, for instance, you're interested in the audiobook, I would highly, highly recommend the audiobook because the narrator is so amazing. But as I already said, all of these things are true. And now I'll explain you why I DNF'd the series during my first time trying it, and why I tried it again, and why I loved it this time. When I gave the series a go during my first read, it was about a year ago, and I was reading it on my Kindle during my holiday. I thought I have plenty of time, and this is quite a long series because every book is 1000 plus pages. I heard lots of great things about the series because lots of people online are recommending it. and I decided that probably my time to actually give it a go. So here we are, I'm reading it on Kindle, and I seriously couldn't understand why people are praising it. Because again, the beginning of series is quite slow and meandering, and I found one of the main characters that we encounter in the series, Arian Solstice, absolutely incredibly annoying. Because the series starts when Arian Solstice appears in this fantasy world and she doesn't understand what's happening, and she finds this inn and she's just trying to clean it and make it habitable for herself because she's just trying to hide from the monsters that were chasing her. And this first section of the first book is very slow and repetitive and meandering, and we're constantly exposed to inner thoughts of our protagonist. And to be honest, I didn't find them particularly interesting, and I literally wanted to shoot myself every time she was repeating, "It is not fair." I don't even remember how many times she repeated this phrase. I literally wanted to strangle her personally. And I know that lots of people actually abandoned the series on this particular section. And that's what happened to me. And the funny thing about it, that I recently watched a video by Murphy Napier where she was discussing her worst books of this year so far. And The Wondering Inn was one of them. And she actually DNF'd it on this exact section. And if this is your experience, if you had troubles with this particular section, I would just implore you to push on and maybe actually switch to an audiobook. Because when I decided to try the series second time, I decided to try it on an audiobook. And my experience was so much better because the book is so much enriched by the narration. I couldn't even believe that it was just one person narrating all these characters. Because actually, it's not only Erin Solstice that we meet in this book. The cast of characters keeps expanding and expanding, and she did an absolutely incredible job narrating all these characters. And if you actually persevered and push through this first section of the book, when Erin Solstice is trying to establish herself in the inn, you will realize that the world is opening up and there are so many other characters and different countries and nations and different races that you can potentially meet in this series. There are hints already in the beginning of the book of a much bigger plot and mystery in the book. You see the potential right away, and you meet such interesting characters along your way. But in the first book, we are primarily dealing with two main characters that arrive from Earth. Erin Solstice, our innkeeper, and Ryoka Griffin. She is the runner. And here I would like to warn you, because I feel in order for you to enjoy, to fully appreciate the Wondering Inn, you will have to be comfortable with unlikable characters. I used to have some issues with unlikable characters in my books, because in the past I felt that in order for me to fully enjoy the book, I needed to like my characters. But nowadays I have a more flexible approach, and I really don't mind unlikable characters if they are consistent and if they are believable. And in both cases of Arian Solstice and Ryoka Griffin, I feel the characters were very consistent and believable, and I really didn't mind and actually enjoy following them. I'm not trying to say that both of them are unlikable, but Ryoka Griffin can really grate on your nerves. In case of Arian Solstice, I personally find her sometimes just simply annoying because at times she feels much younger than she actually is in the books. Because when we start the Wondering Inn, she is around 20 years old, but sometimes she feels much younger. But at the same time, at some point we discovered that she's very talented in chess. And it gave me a pause, to be honest, because I was thinking, surely this girl can't be so strategically talented and be so great at chess and winning pretty much everyone if she feels so young. But after that, I paused and I was thinking, am I actually fair here? Am I actually applying my inner biases to this character and trying to imply if she is young and at times naive, that she can't be good at chess. Am I actually being sexist here? Saying to myself that a young and naive girl can't be good at a strategic game. And I realize that I'm actually at fault here. And after that, I look at the situation in a very different way. Yes, Erin is very naive sometimes, and she feels very, very young sometimes when she talks to people. But at the same time, she's very talented at chess, and it really helps her in her development and the progression of the story and her interaction with other characters in the book. But at the same time, I couldn't really help but be a bit annoyed at her naivety in certain situations. But no one is perfect, and this is the beauty of this character. Because she is not perfect, she is just a normal girl that found herself in a very precarious situation, in a different world she doesn't really know anything about, and trying to establish her life. But if we are going back to Ryoka Griffin, this girl will challenge you. I felt that she was truly unlikable at times. And I was actually thinking, because after my experience with Erin Solstice, I was actually thinking, am I being unfair towards Ryoka? Because quite early on in the story, when we actually meet Ryoka for the first time, you see that she is quite an abrasive and aggressive character. But I was really trying to understand my feelings about her. And I was thinking, maybe again, I'm just being unfair towards her. Why a female character can't be aggressive and grating? Why a female character can't be aggressive? Maybe just my perception that the woman's supposed to be likable and kind and friendly. And I was really trying to push this notion to the limit in certain situations. But certain things that happen in the book really gave me a different perspective. I understood, no, I'm actually right here. She just really has some psychological problems. And this is the part of her personality. At some point, I was even considering if Ryoka is psychopathic, but we see that she actually is able to analyze her behavior and she has regrets. Therefore, she is not truly a psychopath. But you see this inner working of this person, how she's trying to understand herself and people, and actually trying to wage this battle against her demons inside herself. And it's very fascinating to follow, even though probably you'll be very annoyed with her on many, many occasions. And as you can see, we already have two main, very strong and interesting female characters. Yes, they're not perfect, but none of us are perfect, and this is the beauty of it. But at the same time, we meet a set of other characters, and majority of interesting characters actually in the story are female. And this is the reason why I would really like to recommend the series, especially for women, because it's such a rare example of LitRPG with interesting, strong, and developed female characters and big world to explore. There are a few interesting male characters, but they are not as numerous as female characters, and I will name a few of them. It is Relk and the Kiltkitch. Both are senior guardsmen, and Pieces, he is a necromancer. And there are plenty of other male and female characters, and their number is expanding along the book and along the series. I'm pretty sure we will meet some other characters in other books. I just finished the first book, but I'm already very excited to actually continue the series. And please bear in mind that none of the characters are actually safe. The author is trying to make you really invested in some of the characters, and sometimes terrible things are happening to them, and it's truly devastating. And even though the characters is one of the strengths of the book, I would say world building and the themes that are explored in the series are absolutely amazing as well. I personally was so fascinated by exploration of free will and the right choice in the book, because these are very strong themes, at least in the first book. And I believe that certain things that happen in the book will make you pause and actually try to think what you will do in this situation. All in all, I had a great time with the first book, and I'm really looking forward to continuing this book. It is not a perfect book because the beginning is quite repetitive and meandering, and if you are personally not really on board with unlikable characters, You may find it challenging, but I still would implore you to try to give it a go, at least on the audiobook, because I personally found the audiobook experience absolutely amazing because narration was so enriching and it was just on another level of experience. Please give it the series a try and let me think what you think about it. And especially let me think what you think about this book if you already read it. I will be very fascinated to discuss it with you. But please don't spoil anything beyond book one. And I'll see you soon. Bye.